I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by the wonderful Anna Camp to talk all about her series Hysteria. And starting off, one of the things that really struck me about your character Tracy is that I kind of see her as someone who's so desperate to connect to people around her, to her community, to her daughter. But it feels like so many of her words and her actions do the exact opposite and in turn push her away. And so I was very interested in building this character and getting to find the space between what her intentions and her hopes are against the actions that she's actually carrying out and the effects that have on her.
Oh wow, what a wonderful like yes, thank you for noticing all of that. Yeah, Tracy is really a broken person inside. She's carrying a lot of shame around. She was taught to be shameful of who she truly is inside. So I think that that's affected how she relates to people now because she's not actually being her authentic self. She's using religion as this like tool to survive. She's said that there is a good, there's an evil. I am believe in God. My way is the right way because that's what she was taught when she was growing up. So there's this real fascinating thing to play as an actor when I'm putting this sort of mask onto the world and what I project to everyone. When inside there's something bubbling so deeply that I'm trying to repress because I'm so shameful of it. So it was a really fantastic character to get to tackle and unpack and figure out the reasons why she is the way that she is. And at the end of the day, she does think she's doing good. And at the end of the day, she only wants to protect her daughter from the evils of the world because she's the thing that means the most to her.
Right. There's something so interesting with the outward fear that she has being about the evils in the world around her, but it's really about everything inside of herself and the fear
Yes.
of certain things within her bubbling to the surface and seeing those in her daughter. And so, how did that give you just a completely new direction to play the idea of fear in when it's that sort of scope?
It's crazy because, I signed on to do the show with only reading the pilot. So I only read that first episode. And Tracy comes in about three times, and you don't really get to see, you just get to see like her leading this Mothers Against Occult Media meeting, and all of that. But then I talked to the creator, Matthew Scott Kane, and our showrunner, and he was like, Anna, you're going to get to see why Tracy is the way that she is. And when I got that script for episode 5, I already love every character I get to play, even if they're hated. I never judge them when I start to play them. I don't care if I'm likable. I just kind of play who they are, what they want, and how they go about getting it. Might be unconventional or strange or crazy to some people. But then when I got that script, my heart just exploded for her, and my empathy and my sympathy for her as a person really cracked open in this really beautiful way. And you don't really get that in every show. When you see the villain or the adversary, you don't really get to see why they are the way that they are. So I felt like it was such a gift, and it enriched the character in so many ways. So that the further episodes that I got to play, like she's really struggling internally with who she is. Like she wants to break free from this cage that she's put herself in. But what do you do after you've spent year after year building a cage? You can't break it down because who would you be at the end of the day after all of that? So she's really operating from a place of fear of herself, which is so astute of you to see that. And I hope that audiences see that as well, and hopefully learn from her mistakes.
And did you have that script for episode 5 before you started filming? Because it highlights so much of how she's kind of gone through this trauma and then she's revisiting and recreating this cycle of it with her own daughter.
I didn't have the script before I started filming at all. I only heard that something was going to happen, but I didn't really know what it was going to be. I just heard that you're going to get to go back into my past. So I, approached Tracy hopefully with empathy before I even got that script. She has a bit of humor. She's self-effacing. She's like, talk about like a show which is talking about popularity, high school students worried about their popularity. Tracy is the most unpopular person, in the town, and she's lonely and she's sad that nobody is like following her, and she's a bit self-deprecating, and so I always just try to create these layers so I'm not just playing like the mean crazy lady of the town by any means, and hopefully that translated.
You were touching upon before the idea of how she presents herself to the world, and it's so interesting to watch that in your performance because you can tell that there's an awareness and a thought process that's going into every motion, every facial expression, everything that she says. And so how did you set about creating that for her?
Well, I mean, the hair and makeup and costumes really, really helped because she's so tightly wound, and everything she puts on, whether it's the glasses, the tight hair, the buttoned up collars, it's all armor, it's all protection, it's all a mask for what's really the person that she truly is, right? So all of those things informed how I moved, how I talked, how I walked. And so, I mean, you could look at this character one way and be like, well, she's acting or whatever it may be, but she is. She's not, that's the persona that she's created for herself to survive. And what I'm excited about is the moments that that gets cracked open, that you get to see the real person hurting underneath. And hopefully, if we get a season two, you'll get to see even more layers shed from who is Tracy really, right? Like she's built up a lot of walls, and she's presenting this image that is not actually the person that she is.
And because you were mentioning the movements as well, how did you set about deciding what you felt her physicality was and her movement as a character?
Wow, that's like why I love acting so much, is because you get to like inhabit this person, and she moves the opposite of me, right? Like I'm not like she's very she's a little similar to Aubrey, but from Pitch Perfect, but not really. Like I think just once I put on the pantyhose, I mean, I haven't put on pantyhose in a really long time, and I'm wearing pantyhose and these little kitten heels because it can't be too high because that's she's very modest. And just when the wig gets put on my head, I just notice my head like tilting in certain ways, the way she would do her hair in the mirror or put on the hairspray or the little pearl earrings. Like everything is so dainty and specific and tightly wound that it just kind of made me sit differently in general.
There's also so much in the lens of this story that speaks to the time period and the viewpoint that people had and their relationship with religion and the kind of fear and rhetoric that was instilled in people at that point as well. And so how did that influence her for you as well?
Well, I feel like it's still so relevant today. There's a lot of people who are clinging to religion to make an excuse for having power over certain groups of people. I mean, that's something that's been happening since the beginning of time, since religion was created. I just loved dropping that in the midst of this crazy rock and roll rebellion, teen angst world. Like it's so opposite. It's so different. It's so pushing the boundaries. It drives her. Like I get hot thinking about it. You know what I mean? As Tracy, she would start to sweat because she doesn't. I was going to say she doesn't understand it, but inherently she does because she used to be that. But she's been told that it was wrong and it was bad and it was evil. And she survived a very traumatic event by embracing God, and God has become her savior. And I think that people out there who are lost and who are broken look to God, and sometimes it's a good thing and it can bring people together. God can bring people together, but also it can separate people if you become, obsessed with it. And I think that that happens to Tracy for sure. But you'll get to see why is that it's her means of survival.
Right, because she describes in the show at one point that she grew up with her parents telling her like the devil is inside of you, and it's clear that that was instilled from such a young age. Anytime that she did anything wrong, and how did you think about the kind of psychological impact that would have had on her over the years?
Oh my God. I mean, I guess we can talk about the episode, but being locked in that room and being basically tortured and told that you are carrying the devil inside of you, and that your parents, who you just want to be accepted by and you want them to be proud of you, as we all do, right? We want our family to embrace us and love us, to be told that you're a sinner, you're going to hell. I mean, the amount of psychological damage that has been done to her, that's all I really could think about is, and then how does she cope? How does she build a life after that? And then once she has her own daughter, she's going to invest everything into her own daughter and give. I think she thinks she's doing the opposite of what her parents did, even though she does the exact same thing. I think she wants to save her. She just wants to save her from the evils of the world and save her from herself. If only somebody could talk to Tracy and be like, you're going about it in the totally wrong way. But that would be less cinematic. So,
What one of the moments that I loved was in one of the later episodes, there's a moment where something happens with her and her daughter, and then her daughter kind of like embraces into a hug with her in fear, and she's like, "What are we going to do now?" And the fact that your character is smiling, like, "Yes, I'm getting what I wanted." I just wanted to ask about finding that moment and if that was something in the script or that was a choice that you made.
oh yeah, no, that was not written. That was not written. I think it just, I think I know the moment you're talking about. And I think it just comes from like a huge relief of like A, being saved, and B, having her need me now. She needs her mother, and that's all I want. I want to be needed by my daughter. And yeah, it's a really kind of chilling scene. And then the way we see Tracy kind of twist that on its head in the future episode is just, I still am like, when I'm reading the script, I'm like, she does what? Oh my God, okay. I would never do that, but Tracy does. So I'm going to commit 110%.
I love that so much. I also feel like over recent years in your career, you've kind of been making this very conscientious effort to really find roles that allow you to broaden a lot of your range as an actor and to kind of like show people that as well, and even stepping into producing roles. And so, how do you feel like that really spoke to you in terms of taking this script when you're being very specific about the choices that you make?
Well, I had just entered like the horror genre. I had done True Blood back in the day. And then I did a horror movie that I really loved doing, and I produced that as well. And it was just, a lot of people know me from Pitch Perfect. And it's a happy, wonderful, I love those movies. But there's so much more to me as an actor that in Hollywood, you get typecast. You get caught in a genre and you can do it well, then you keep getting offered the same types of roles, obviously, over and over. So, yeah, I have worked very hard to break out of that. And I've had to say no to a lot of jobs just because I was like, I can't do that anymore. Like, I can't, I'm not being challenged. And it takes a certain group of producers or directors to see something in me and go, no, she can do this. I know she can do this. And so it was really exciting to have like all of Peacock and Good Fear and Matt Scott Kane, all the directors like really championing me to get this role. And I just hope that people respond to it because I just had the most incredible time playing her.
And going back to the beginning of the conversation where you were talking about obviously you didn't have all the scripts up front. I was very curious because there's things that your character isn't revealing until later in the series and is keeping hidden. And I was curious about if you kind of knew the details of that early on from conversations that you had with the showrunners to be able to play to it and kind of have to think about not giving away too much too early, or if it was also a surprise to you later on.
We only got like two scripts like at a time. So there were times that I like in the later episodes I was acting and not knowing what was coming up and I just had to play the reality of the situation through my character's experience. And then I would get the scripts and sometimes I would wonder if I would play it differently, but ultimately I wouldn't have. Everything turned out to be the way it was supposed to be because I knew she had secrets up her sleeve. So I think it ended up being okay, but it is interesting as an actor in a TV show when you don't get the full arc. You just have to like trust that it's going to turn out the way it is and that your performance is going to, lead up to the final episode. So hopefully it does.
Yeah. And how do you feel that the scope of that all created a lot of really unique challenges, not just in terms of the character, but kind of like building it as you went in that way?
It's just what I want to do. I'm like, want to be an actor because of this. I want to go, oh my God, you have me doing speech after, oh, how am I going to do this on set, the next day? It's really also to transform into someone. And this has been an incredible gift to play this person who's completely, thank God, a whole lot different than I am. It's just so exciting to get to live in another person's shoes and have these wonderful words to say. It's been a dream role for me, definitely. So I'm very excited and I'm so happy that you responded so well to it.
No, it's such a great character with so much to play off of. So really enjoyed hearing all of this. Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.